What's going on, everybody? It is Mark Cargill, the lead faculty and CEO here at Modern Pain Care, where we make you the complete clinician. Coming at you this week with another episode of the Modern Paincast with two colleagues and friends of mine who I've been fortunate enough to have come and join us, kind of team up with us a little bit at Modern Pain Care and bring on some of their expertise and knowledge in the form of programming, fitness, and all the good stuff that comes along with that. Obviously, if you watch social media or consume social media, you can tell that as physiotherapists and rehab folks in general, not just physiotherapists, chiropractors, and other folks, the strength and conditioning principles and getting people into programming and exercise just is not a strong suit. We don't get it in school. We don't really get a strong foundation to come into clinical practice. So it's one of the holes we really wanted to fill at Modern Pain Care, and thankfully we've got two gentlemen that have helped us do that and have put together a great program. Ran it for their first time. Gosh, they'll have to tell me. I think it was like 6 months ago, 3 months ago, somewhere in that ballpark. But I was able to see the feedback, and it was great feedback. But I want to talk to these gentlemen this week and hear how things went. And they got big plans for the future. I want to hear where those are going as well. So let's bring them on. Joe Camoratto, why don't you introduce yourself, and then we'll have CJ DePalma introduce himself, and then we'll get into it.
Sure. Hey, I'm Joe Camoratto. I'm a physical therapist, and I have been out here in New Jersey just slaving away. I think I've been a physical therapist for 5 years now. I think we just passed that mark, and it's been a whirlwind. I'm currently working for the Air Force as a contract physical therapist, so on base, which this is my third time doing that. I've done it out in California, out in Mississippi, and now here in New Jersey. And yeah, we're excited to be on here for the second time. I don't know if I've been a repeat guest on a podcast before. This is great.
That's just a sign of how good you two gentlemen were the first time. We don't have a lot of repeats. You might actually be the first repeat guests ever on the Modern Pain podcast. What? So, hang that on the fridge, gentlemen. Hang it on the fridge.
All right.
CJ, tell us, a lot of folks know of you, but if you don't mind introducing yourself for the audience, please.
Yeah, what's going on, guys? My name is CJ DePalma. I own a private clinic in Florida called The Movement Doctor, and I work for a online fitness company named WODprep, which is a CrossFit how-to company. So I'm the head coach there, and I've been treating remotely almost solely for a little over 2 years now, not COVID driven. COVID was just a, byproduct of actually treating. And so it kind of coincided, but yeah, we've been almost fully remote now for a while. Very little rehab in the sense of what I do on a day-to-day basis, but our getting together with Joe's worked with me in the other company that I work with for a while now as well, and bridging this gap between in rehab and training and the concept of programming is something that I've been doing since before PT started. So making this course was kind of just the natural progression, I think, of being in the clinic and then doing the remote thing and coaching athletes and kind of making this little love child of all those things.
Love it. It's been a good love child, but such a huge hole too. I think, just that rehab, and I think we have such a window in physical therapy, especially, to really do so much more for our clients. Not only for the best of your clients, but I think the way insurance models are rolling, and the opportunities to maybe have some cash-based services and some performance-based things, and taking people where they can go. I think we just so limit ourselves and limit the progress of people by just sticking on, let's just get them good enough to, get through a day. Where can't we just take them a lot further, get them into more fitness, get them in a lot more, protective, buffering behaviors where, they're navigating life much more easily, a lot more, obviously, secondary benefits of exercise. Those have been well discussed, but I want to kind of hear from you guys how that first cohort went, kind of what were the learning points you had as you went through the first running of the cohort, the Across the Continuum program that, again, we've had some great feedback on, but curious how it went, what you found was, most beneficial for folks, and what you got coming down the pipeline as far as changes as a result.
Sure. So what we ended up doing is we went with a 6-week model instead, because we polled the people. We had 14 beta mentees, which was great. And we're like, do you guys want to do this for 3 months or maybe like a month and a half? And they were for sure a month and a half. Like 3 months is a long time. So we basically ended up taking the 6 modules down to 6 weeks, which fit perfectly, right? Constant content coming at people. And I'm now a Canva specialist. So that was definitely one of the things that I learned the most was how to manipulate shapes and colors. But I think the thing that the people liked the most, the feedback that we got, were the programming modules and then the teaching the lifts, which we take people through basic periodization and programming, introduce them to the variables, frequency, volume, intensity, movement variation, and then take them through like basically practice, right? So we get them an account in TrueCoach. We have them build a 6-week program for themselves and then for one of their patients, and then go through that program and post videos for us to give them feedback on their own lifts. And then we go through a module where we poll the people at the beginning and say, what lifts are you looking to learn? Because CJ and myself basically look at lifting all day long little videos when we program for our athletes remotely. And CJ has been moving through space quite efficiently for a long time. And so we then take those videos that the people request and we demonstrate and then talk through them at length. And then again, if the mentees have any questions about their own lifts, so we have them post videos in our Slack community. I think that those were the things that were the most received. But everything was good information in my opinion. But going forward, I think the things that we're going to do better is we're going to add a business module, right? Because a lot of people would stay really late on our weekly lives, and just pick our brains about like, how do I pick a niche, or how do I market, or what sort of XYZ do I need? And the weekly lives would start at like 8 and I would get off at like 10:30 or something like that. And so there were certainly a lot of questions. And so I think we're going to, in future cohorts, build in a business module as well. So those are the plans, and that's what went well.
What was your reflections on that, CJ, as far as what you saw and kind of how it's influenced things moving forward?
Yeah, so I mean, Joe pretty much single-handedly did all of the course, and I bring in the I guess the expertise of the concepts of programming application, not just the principles behind it, and reviewing the programs and teaching the lifts, right? That's what I do all day, right? And this is pretty much my life, is programming CrossFit or some form of training or some form of hybrid rehab training protocol. And so after going through it, I think that's what we found was probably the most new information to the participants there, right? And the information that they hadn't received in school. We went over our other modules on the concepts of pain and injury and our viewpoints on those things. And so and it was great to open a good dialogue between that. But I really feel as though where the course is giving its most is through those things. And I definitely think this business marketing or open forum point that we're going to add to the course is going to be huge too, because that's what we did, right? This is, Across the Continuum is how me and Joe have given physical therapy to, hundreds, if not thousands of people now, virtually and in person. And so we want to be able to give them as much as we can, and adding this new module, I think, is going to be great. And yeah, I think right there. So we'll continue on.
And you helped me navigate my back injury as I was returning to the CrossFit world and successfully navigating. Yeah, I did. Apparently, you can touch a barbell when you're rehabbing a back, which was. I know. It was crazy. My wrist didn't splatter.
I hear you can only do that if your mustache is as good as Joe's.
That's true. I mean, we know that's probably our our number one marketing tool right now is Joe's regalness with the facial foliage, which
Ooh,
it is nice, Joe. I'm very impressed. And it's past November, so you've just managed to. The wife is on board with it. That's all that matters.
She is
no,
indifferent, which
She's
is great.
indifferent, which is good. My wife is adamantly opposed, so that's good on you, man.
Is that to any hair on your head at all?
No,
Well,
so
the top of the dome is, she would like to see it there. I just have told her that I've given up that fight and it's not worth it
you don't want to go with the
well, God, I just would
donut.
see pictures and it was like, it was clear I was losing the fight and, she was, holding on to hope, and I'm not interested in LeBron in it and getting things plugged up there or whatever. I'm just going to embrace what I got and go with it.
Mark, how is your snatch doing, by the way? Because I remember previously
the overhead has gotten much better. To be honest, nice. For me, it's got up to 145, which is good for this guy. I'm working on.
Wow.
I'd like to get it up to scaring 200 pounds. A lot of it's technique. I feel like I can muscle bars around, but I didn't really respect the Olympic lifting previous to getting into CrossFit, and then when I realized how bad I sucked at it and how much technique was huge with it.
Don't be dramatic.
Yeah, I know. I guess I like to beat myself up, but thanks to the help from CJ and Joe, you chipped in on a few things when I'd post them on. I have engaged with WOD Prep personally as far as getting some coaching when we were on the virtual front, and then also in their Facebook group.
I'll send you the snatch video that CJ made for teaching the lifts module.
Yeah, I could use it, man. Hey, we could delve off into my lackluster, mediocre CrossFit career, but I'd like to hear a little bit about your foray into the clinic again, Joe, and how that's kind of put you back. Because I think you were working more on the higher level, fitness athlete, which is great, and that's some of the people we're going to encounter in the clinic, of course, depending on what niche we're functioning in. But some of the folks I know you guys had in the course were just working with your average clinical population, where it's not, maybe as higher performers as what you're going to see in like a CrossFit coaching. Although CrossFit coaching can take some folks who are really looking to start from the ground floor and work their way up too. So that doesn't necessarily only mean you're having high performers. But curious how your re-entry into the clinic has really helped you on the kind of better understanding the breadth and kind of complexity of the populations we serve.
Sure. I think at the time that we recorded last time, I didn't even know that I was going to be working for the Air Force again, because I think that was 8 months ago. I've been there for 4 months now or so. And it has opened my eyes to how much I liked working remotely, as well as working with CJ, who seems to be a mirror reflection of myself. And so it's been challenging to be back in the clinic working with people who maybe don't think the same way I do about whether that, pain or really exercise in general, because I seem to have blown the dust off of the dumbbells and the squat rack when I got to the clinic. But now I'm going to be presenting about resistance training and stuff like that in the rehab setting in about 2 months. So I'm excited for that. But I think when it comes to working with the military, there's a yearly or a bi-yearly thing, depending on how good or bad you are at the test of push-ups, sit-ups, run, that you have to train for, and it's coming, so the questions to the test that you have to take. And for the most part, we see a lot of people who just are not preparing well for those tests. And so the thing that I've seen reflected, I think that's different from the remote stuff, is that I have to, in real time, sit with people and kind of pick apart what they're currently doing with their exercise program. Because like I said, it's just a 1.5 mile run, it's a minute of push-ups and a minute of sit-ups, and there are certain criteria and thresholds for scoring a certain number on each of those. We see people with knee pain, with shoulder pain, with low back pain, all the regular stuff that you would see from possibly doing too much too soon too quickly after having not done nearly enough for a long time, right? And so being able to sit down in real time, have all those variables floating around in my head, have the questioning process of like, hey, what does your running look like? Take me specifically through, a week of your duration, your volume, how quickly you're going, what sort of medium you're running on, the age of your shoe, all of these sorts of things that we would assume would have some sort of play in what's going on, and then being able to try and make a better plan going forward, and then as well as like pushing for some sort of resistance training program to help with just like getting them better prepared for physical stuff in general. So I think that the ability to, in real time, again, sit in front of people and be like, hey, what exactly are you doing? And having this kind of like ability to have this big picture in my brain of their programming or of their week or of their month, and saying like, this might be a better route to go down, and making a very straightforward plan of how I want to implement that, I think has been the thing that I've refined the best being back into the clinic. Because, what CJ and I do is we sit in front of the computer and we have a literal calendar in front of us to be able to make a very solid and concrete plan that the people follow, and then we can tweak that as we see fit. But that's just not available while I'm sitting in front of people.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you bring up a good point as far as blowing off the dust off the squat rack and the plates and things, because a lot of the folks we talk to who are like, there's obviously been a good push to get back into some of these principles in a clinic and get, strength and conditioning principles, periodization approaches, all the things that you guys are teaching. And you're doing it as far as, navigating that exact situation where you have a clinical group who may not be on top of their strength and conditioning game as much, and you're having to see how do you navigate that delicate dance, where you're not overly confronting people with alternative, clinical practices to the point they feel threatened about it, but
sure,
how do you integrate it within the grand scheme? So how if you found decent success so far with it sounds like you're obviously presenting to the group there, so there's some interest of maybe them incorporating a little bit of this stuff. How's it been on the side of having to do it versus having, a lot of the folks I know you guys have coached through, how do you incorporate that into a practice that's not traditionally using that type of approach?
Sure. Well, I think one of the pros of working for the government, right, is that whether you like it or not, money isn't really the question that's being asked there. And so we really do have a fantastic clinic, right? We've got a squat rack with, I think, almost 300 pounds of bumper plates. We've got dumbbells up to 45. We've got 2 ellipticals, 3 bikes, an arm bike, leg press, treadmills. So you name it, we've got it. Leg extension machine. So it's all there, right? There's just that software of being able to use it and understand the rationale behind it and how to implement it, I think is the thing that seems to plague the clinicians the most. And again, not particularly at my clinic, but just in general. The stuff that CJ and I talk about gets pushed back seemingly no matter where we go.
Sure.
You know what I mean? And so that's what we're trying to affect now. And it's funny, the first month or two while I was in the clinic, and still even there's like, make sure that you're not just giving people like the meathead workout, right, for their rehab. Make sure that you're paying attention to X, Y, and Z instead of just giving them this, like, where this isn't a bodybuilding clinic, right? Like, what are you doing over here? And also there's still, I just had a conversation last week that one of the therapists is wanting to learn more because there's like a fear of injury for herself. And she's like, I want to make sure that I don't hurt myself while I'm doing any sort of heavy lifting because like I have these duties that I need to perform. And so I would love to, again, come in and say, hey, this is extremely safe as long as we're, doing it with half of a brain on top of our heads. And so that, I think, is going to be the difficult part of like implementing it is how do you convince, right? How do you change people's minds, which is like a 20 series podcast in and of itself.
For sure. So let's bring in CJ with, so who's the ideal, like, who's the person that you guys think you can like help the most? I've seen it and with what the feedback you guys have gotten, but somebody who's peeking at the program, what are the problems or things that they're probably facing in their practice? We've talked a little bit about it as far as, the folks that are trying to incorporate these principles into a clinical environment that may not traditionally have been using this type of principles, but What are some other problems that you see folks facing that you guys, kind of are well positioned to help folks with?
Yeah, I think what I think me and Joe do very well is patient communication and relaying our ideas of this different narrative to the patient. We go over that a lot in detail in the course, and discussing pain and injury and strategies to, you know, it's interesting how easy it is to tell someone that like their hips are shifted or their SI is rotated compared to this concept of, hey, pain is not as simplistic as this, and this could have a factor, but it might not be the only factor. It's amazing how the idea that I guess it just makes more sense to us now, but it's easy to diagnose and to like just give this person this kind of concrete, this is this. And so we go over, how to talk to patients maybe a little bit more effectively, and how to converse now with your coworkers, and how to be able to implement these ideas in a clinic that might not be super open to, right? And we go over a lot of strategies for that stuff. And that's where, while we have our modules, most of these strategies come in that, like Joe said, the other hour and a half of the call that isn't programmed or scheduled. I think that we're able to do it there. We're also hopefully focusing the most on the clinician who is trying to grow a practice, right? Whether it's their own practice of something of a small niche. We're going to talk about a lot of that. And teaching people how to program is great, and it's very effective, especially when you're trying to load patients, right? And that's a common theme is we underload, and we don't want to do that, right? We want to give the practitioner the confidence that they're going to load appropriately. Really just giving them the confidence to load, because most of the time they're just going to load appropriately if they do it right. It's not as complex as it sounds, but we'll help you get comfortable with that kind of stuff, and then hopefully teach you and open the doors and open your mind of like creating these actual, whatever you want to call them, training plans when they're done with rehab, wellness plans, whatever narrative you need to use to, hopefully make a little more money, help your patients outside of the confines of an insurance structure, and be able to give your services where they're probably more so needed, instead of just, always fighting against a problem that's like already risen, and they've already gone through this system that is probably setting them up for maybe not failure, but fear and worrisome and catastrophization.
We could call it failure.
Yeah, you could call it failure. I'm trying not to just completely throw
we do that on this podcast.
Whole healthcare system into the toilet. And the goal is to hopefully give people confidence that, they can do this on their own, right? And whether that's like opening their own business. This isn't a business mentorship, whatever, it might turn into one, but we want to give the people what they want, I guess you would say. And so I think that giving the confidence to practitioners to work with patients outside of the confines of the clinic is super important, and I think we do that really well.
Cool. Yeah, Joe, what else anything else that you want to add to that, as far as like, folks that are looking at things and seeing if it's something that would help them with the issues they're facing in the clinic?
I think it's tough to be an objective observer of yourself without that like reflection process. Like, I think the thing that I do kind of well is like sitting down and being like, oh my God, I don't know any of this topic right here, and I need to do that better. And so I think if you're in a position in the clinic where you have the ability to think that, right, I think that is a good place to be. And I think we talked about this last time, how a lot of the exercise prescription that people give, it's not bad, but it seems to lack that kind of like meaningful reason, I suppose. And so I think if there's not that process that's occurring, if you're listening to this and you do a reflection and you say, what's the reasons that I give out exercises, right? And it's just to maybe get them more active, or to try and like pull their shoulder more forward, or it's to maybe, I don't know, like correct a movement or something like that, then I think that maybe we should chat a little bit about what might be a better way of, because, we love that you're giving exercise. That's the whole point, is to get their general health up, to try and decrease basically every bad thing that's happening to them, right? But if the process lacks a little bit of reason that we might be able to help kind of guide, I think that would be ideal. And especially for the person who's listening who maybe doesn't apply the same principles to themselves that they do to other patients, I think that's a great spot to be in as well. We just posted about this the other day, like how important is it that you're doing this type of things that you are seeing your patients for, or you're giving to your patients. And we would say that's, pretty important, because there's just kind of nuances and things that you need to learn from doing those, right? I can at the very least snatch, right? But it's tougher for me to chat about those things because I don't do it on a very regular basis. And so that's one thing that I think, if somebody is looking for somewhere for them to come and not only learn for their patients, but learn for themselves, I think that we hit that pretty hard.
Yeah. I agree. I think you got, having some experience in your own self and using yourself almost as your own patient to kind of see, well, how, if I can figure this out and program it myself and kind of understand some of the reasoning and thought processes with myself, then makes it a lot easier to then take it on to, patients of all levels. Like we said, it could be the CrossFit level patient, or it might be the patient who's just trying to navigate home mobility and life mobility at a level that's allowing them to perform at their highest level in life. But we're coming up onto our usual cap, and wondering if you guys have any parting thoughts of what you would want to leave folks with, if they're like a little, what are folks going to get out of this Across the Continuum program? And then make sure you let folks know how to get a hold of you, because if they're interested in talking with you guys more, I'm sure you may have some social media accounts or things you'd like people to reach out to you on.
Yeah, so I think that the clinician who feels maybe that they are kind of on their lonely island in the clinic, um, this is for sure the mentorship for them. I think it's really going to help maybe integrate them into the clinic a little bit better, as far as integrating the ideas of weight training and giving them the tools necessary to kind of justify and defend themselves, when these things are being applied. Because, again, we'll just say the system is flawed, and it's just amazing how many people just think that what we do isn't physical therapy, because it's almost, universally exercise driven, and we load them, and it's just mind blowing, right? Rehab, the name of the course is Across the Continuum, and rehab is a continuum, right? And a quad set, while it is an exercise, is no different from an application concept than like a loaded squat, right? Like, I mean, it's just accomplishing so many of the same things, right? It's just further down the continuum. So, so being able to kind of support yourself within those things is what the course is going to help. And then a byproduct of the course, not the main goal of it, is the clinician working with the higher level person. If you are, and you're seeing CrossFit athletes or barbell athletes, or really any ball sport athletes that are training really hard, we're really good at teaching that stuff. We can teach you how to navigate the complex lift. We can teach you how to navigate the complex gymnastics. And the CrossFit world is overtaking the PT world, as far as the PT world that is like looking to grow, right? Like the PTs that are trying to get more information and try to be better just happen to always be integrated into that part of fitness. They just are. It's very interesting, and so that's a growing relationship, and we're really good at that.
Cool.
And so we can help. And it's not the main focus of the course, but teaching the lifts and programming and navigating around, pull-ups and handstand walks and those kind of things. We have another course that we have that's like just in the CrossFit space, called Back to Performance. That's what we teach. We teach coaches and athletes how to get from an injury and all the way back to full training without those things. And we go over a lot of that stuff in there. We call it like our step method of integrating exercises and finding an entry point and things. And so, so if you feel you might be struggling with that in seeing the higher level patient and not knowing what to do, because I think a lot of PTs get out of school and they're really good at like protocol driven things and this like early stage rehab and then late stage rehab outside of your like ACL, because it just has so much information and guidance. Like outside of that stuff, they feel a little lost, and so we can help with that.
Cool.
I don't know if I can beat the double plug,
Uh,
you know, but I'll try.
That's right.
Yeah, if you look at Across the Continuum, right, it's basically like a reflection of CJ and myself. Like it's just our brains kind of dumped out in front of everybody, which is good and bad, right? We hope to get a lot of feedback, and we hope that it is helpful, right? I think the thing that I wanted to leave people with the most is that it's not just programming, right? We go over coaching, communication skills, mindset, like growth mindset stuff. We go over like motivational interviewing, programming, implementing programming in the context of pain and injury, recovery, like behavior change, lifestyle modifications, like all of this cool stuff that we try to not just fix one problem. We try and send people home with a system and a lens to look through that might be an update or a total change or a total confirmation bias of what they already know. And so while it seems like people enjoyed those two modules the most, it really is this encompassing, or we're trying to make it as best as we can, an encompassing system and a framework for people to work off of.
Yeah, people love systems, and definitely a way to kind of frame a patient and kind of apply it, like you said, across the continuum. Well-named course, of course.
I can't tell you how many names I've like.
Yeah.
I remember texting CJ. I was sitting on the salt bike in the driveway for like 40 minutes. Hashtag humble brag. Just like texting and being like, "Nah, that's dumb." Just trying to think. It was gonna be moving through space. How dumb is that? You know,
not bad, not great.
I don't know. I think it's dope. I think it would have been good.
Yeah,
I think
I don't mind
name,
it.
To be honest.
Yeah.
It's a better name. I think we screwed up.
You know, there could be other iterations. You never know. You know, names are just names. They're not anything that we write in stone too much. But no, I think just to kind of bring it back, and we'll wrap it up. But where can folks reach you? And then I'll close us out. Where, if they want to talk to you guys about this thing.
Yeah,
Sure.
407
Across the Continuum. At Across the Continuum is our Instagram. We have a Facebook, but I literally only have a Facebook to make a later account, which is what I used to post on Instagram.
Yeah.
And then acrossthecontinuum.com, and I'm dr.joe.dpt on Instagram, and you're at the_movement_doctor on Instagram. So
we'll make sure we get some of the contacts in the show notes for you guys to reach out to CJ or Joe if you want to have some further discussions to see if things are a good fit for you for the program. Obviously, we think it's a huge hole that's being filled. There's other, folks doing it. We're very happy with the awesome feedback we've gotten from our first cohort, and excited to see you guys continue to fill just a massive hole and such a huge opportunity for therapists too, man. I think, like you guys said, get out of this freaking illness care model and let's get people into true healthcare, which this course, getting people into fitness and getting people into more proactive health, inducing behaviors versus let's wait till the wheels fall off. Of course, we'll join forces with people when the wheels fall off, but let's take them further and not just get them good enough to where the car's just barely running to where it's, destined for another, catastrophic event. We got so much more we can offer patients, and these guys are delivering the goods on helping PTs take that next step and help folks, get to that point in their life, really. I mean, this stuff is things, and you guys talked about lifestyle things, motivational interviewing, a lot of the similar overlaps with what we do in our programs when we're just trying to get people to the point. So we in rehab to where they can then step in with you guys in your coursework to help. Okay, now we got folks on a much better trajectory with pain and different things. How do we take them to that next level, which Again, you guys are doing a great job filling that up. So I'm going to close it out for this week. I hope you guys enjoy the episode. Don't hesitate to reach out to us if you have any other questions, comments on today's episode, and if you have any other ideas on topics or folks you'd like to hear us chat with. We're always open for those suggestions, but we'll leave that with you guys this week, and we will talk to you next time.